We are into the final EWC qualifier. The play-ins round is over. We now know the 80 duos that have qualified for heats, and spoiler alert, a lot of big names did miss out and will no longer be able to make the $1 million LAN event in August. I'll break down the whole cup for you. I'll give you my predictions for heats. Let's just get straight into it. Now let's start off with perhaps the biggest name to miss out on finals, and that is of course MrSavage. Alongside Velo, they were so close to qualification, just 2 points off in the end, finishing in 84th place. They came third in their final match, and had they been able to secure one more elimination or one more placement point, then they would have qualified for the heats. I mean, it was very unfortunate. They were holding high. It looked like it was their win. It looked like they were going to close it out, and then they got shockwaved on, which is unfortunately just a feature of this meta, and that did completely end their game. Listen, day 2 was actually really good for them. They managed 30th for that day. The real issue was day 1, where they finished in 254th. Had they been able to get out of the blocks a bit quicker, had they not had such a slow start, then they would have qualified for heats. So that is the real issue. But listen, I do still think we should be thinking about these guys very positively. There are a lot of good things to take away. Of course, they've qualified for 9 out of 9 divisional cups together. They've made every single finals, which is great consistency. They also made the Summit LAN as well. So there's a lot of good things to take here. I do believe that these guys have a big future, but unfortunately they weren't quite able to make the top 80 on this occasion. We also had Cammy and Hari miss out, which I have to say is a bit of a disappointment. I know these guys already qualified for the LAN. They managed that in the most recent qualifier, but I've not been overly impressed with them in Reload. They didn't make heats in qualifier 1. They didn't make grand finals in qualifier 2. They then obviously did well in qualifier 3, but a lot of that was down to the cube rifle. There was a bit of a reliance on that weapon, and now they haven't made heats again. For a team that will be participating at the LAN, I do feel like I need to see a little bit more quality, a little bit more ability in this game mode, because their results do leave a lot to be desired. Fredoxy and iDrop also didn't make it. They were 83rd after day 1, so nearly on pace, and day 2 was a bit of a disaster, finishing in 173rd for that day, so we won't be seeing them at the LAN. This duo is yet to really kick into gear since forming after the Summit LAN. I know they've made both of the Divisional Cup finals, and they were contested in them, so you have to cut them a bit of slack, but I do still feel like we are waiting on that big performance. Akira and Karama also didn't qualify. Now I can imagine the vibes were a bit weird for this one because they have now split as a duo, but they were still locked together for this tournament, so maybe a bit of a strange dynamic. Even so though, with the quality they have, I would have expected them to make the top 80, but we won't be seeing either of those Gentlemates players in the LAN in Saudi Arabia. We had Bevies and Frosty miss out. They managed 2nd in the opens round, but they weren't able to build on that. Unfortunate for them because they were looking like they had figured out Reload. We had Darkos and Minori miss out as well. They have now officially split as a duo. These are 2 players that have been together for quite some time now. They of course played together at the Summit LAN as well, but it does look like that has come to an end. We had Mongraal and Hydro not qualify, and honestly I'm not really that shocked by this. I wouldn't consider them a top 80 team in the EU, and honestly that's okay, that's fine. I just think that's the level that Mongraal's at. I don't think we need to be demanding that he qualifies for every tournament. I don't think this is a massive surprise. Honestly, it was their day 1 that really let them down. They finished outside of the top 1,000, bearing in mind there were only 2,000 teams in the play-ins round altogether. Day 2 was a bit better. They finished 173rd, but I mean it's still not really that close to the top 80, so you know, I wasn't that impressed with what I saw from them, but I do feel like the vibes are there. They seem like they're having fun. Maybe they could develop. It's not a duo that I think will be winning tournaments. It's not a duo that I think will be making that many Divisional Cup finals, but if it's working out, if they're having fun, I do think they should stick. We also had Ping and MrSavage not qualify. Honestly, I completely forgot these guys were even playing together for this tournament. Not really any surprises there, but 464th is pretty disappointing. Again, we're yet to see really any kind of performance from MrSavage since Globals ended, except for that one full storm of a Divisional Cup with picks. I do want to start seeing some good placements from him soon, especially now that he's playing with Panzer as well. And here's a list of some of the other big names that didn't make it. As you can see, people like Moneymaker, Trulex and Chicho won't be at the LAN in Saudi Arabia. But don't worry, we do still have a stacked top 80, and I'll discuss all those teams in a moment when I give you my predictions for all 4 heats. But before then, let's take a look at the top 10 from opens. In first place we had Twek and Gonzo, and honestly these guys are on an insane run of form. First in day 1 of this tournament, first in the Divisional Cup, now first in play-ins overall. What a few days it's been for these guys. I spoke about them in great depth in my last video, which I will link at the end of this one, so make sure you check that out to learn way more about why this duo is performing performing so well. We had Khan and Faded Pigeon in second place. It does seem like these guys might just be reload experts. Of course, they have already made the LAN. They managed that back in the second qualifier, and it does seem like this is their mode because they've been struggling in Battle Royale lately. I know they've been contested over at Sunken Shores by Dharm and Deemish, but the performances haven't really been there, but no such troubles in reload. I do think this might just be their thing. Running down the rest of the top 10, there are some other big names. Rax and Yanis, who got third in the last divisional cup. You've got Skyjump and Mumsy. You've got Chap and Flixie, Sky and Scroll. It is going to be a stacked finals. Credit to Vico for managing the most eliminations and the most damage in the play-ins round. Another talismanic performance from him. Genuinely incredible stuff. And here's a tweet from Kinch, which I wanted to include. These are the 8 duos that have made all 4 EWC heats. Great consistency from these guys. Okay, so if you're curious about which other teams qualified, we're now going to take a look at all 4 heats. I'll give you my initial predictions for the 5 teams that will qualify for finals for each one. Let's start off with Heat 1. Now, the first thing I notice is that Shark and Teeny are completely uncontested over at Elite Experiments, so I will be putting them in first place. They have to be the favourites to win this heat. Of course, they won the first 2 EWC qualifiers, so they have shown a real aptitude in reload, and I see no reason why they're not going to win. In second place, I've gone for Sky and Scroll, and I know they are contested by a team, but this is reload. It's not the end of the world if you've got someone on you because you can respawn, you can split POIs. These POIs are pretty big, so they are very splittable. I still think Sky and Scroll are going to do great. Let's not forget they're already qualified for the LAN as well, so they don't really have anything to lose, so it's kind of a risk for any team to contest them at this point. In third place, I've gone for Twek and Gonzo, the team in incredible form. If they keep playing the way they are, then they will easily make it into the top 5. I've got no doubts about that. In fourth place, I've gone for Clapsy and Kjeld. Now, they actually won their heat in the most recent qualifier, showing that they do really understand how to play reload, and I do think they can continue that kind of form into this tournament. And finally, in fifth place, I've gone for the underrated French duo of Izzy and Nosif. Now, for this heat, there are a bunch of other teams that I do believe could do well, the likes of Noah and Reason, Vanya and the Frizzy, Pradash and Trexa, and I do think this is a tough one to call. I do think it's going to be very tight. Moving over to Heat 2, this is by far the toughest one in my opinion. The reason for that is because there are 5 teams in this lobby that are already qualified for the LAN, meaning that if you're contesting them, if you're going anywhere near them, then you are taking a massive gamble because they do not have anything to lose. They can just play to grief. It's going to be a bit of a messy lobby. But listen, here's my top 5. I have literally just chosen the best 5 teams that are uncontested. I know that's a bit boring, but that is the teams that are probably going to get through. We've got Dharm and Deemish in first place. Of course, they won the most recent qualifier. Biko and Malabuka in second. Swizzy and Pixie in third. Chap and Flixie in fourth. And Yapko and Panzer I've gone for in fifth. Now, I am aware that there are some good teams around the map as well. You've got the likes of Shrapt and Yulla, Nero and Joshbot, Fighter and Dexy, and of course a lot of big names that are contested as well. Khan and Faded Pigeon, Belusi and Zangi. This is a properly stacked lobby, and in all honesty, I'm sure that some surprise teams will sneak in because the top 5 is unlikely to just be the 5 biggest name duos, but this is a really tough one to call. I'm very excited for this heat in particular. Now, let's move on over to Heat 3. This one is a little bit easier in my opinion. You've got Focus and Thomas HD, the team that I believe should be coming in first. That whole POI uncontested, it really is a recipe for success. Nebs and Nathan I've put in second, a pretty solid UK duo, one that did make the summer LAN. I've gone for Dan DePuzo and Werex in third place. Now, they have actually split for Battle Royale, which is pretty interesting. They're no longer actually playing as a duo. Of course, that's the same thing with Yapko and Panzer as well, a team that have already made the LAN. So that's kind of a weird thing that we've got going on. Different teammates for Reload and Battle Royale. That's something that is going to be a thing in the future. Anyway, I do think Dan DePuzo and Werex will make it through. They may no longer be playing together, but they are still dark horses, and I do like their spot. I've got Sires and Scary Sean in fourth, the Spanish controller duo. I think in this lobby they will have enough to get through. And finally, I've gone for Bimbo and Alizi, the Italian duo, in fifth place. This is a bit of a punt, to be honest. I do just like their spot, I like their situation, and I don't think there's too many other top teams in this lobby. Although, to be honest with you, I'm leaning towards putting Skyjump and Mumsy into that top 5. I know they're contested, but even with that, they've shown that they're good at reload, and I do believe they can make the top 5. If they do become uncontested before these finals, they will 100% enter my list. And finally, let's discuss Heat 4. Chino and Pablo Wingu have got their area completely uncontested, so they are my favourites to win. I've got Cringe and Volko in second place, a team that are of course a bit up and down, but ultimately in this lobby I don't think they'll have too many problems. Kashi and Firen are my pick to come in third. Now, these guys have been really solid in reload as of late. They came 14th in qualifier 2, 8th in qualifier 3, country. Just making both of those grand finals is a pretty good achievement, and I do believe they're going to go back to back to back and qualify for these ones as well. I've put Marius and Wox in 4th place, a new duo that we haven't seen too much of, but they do have a lot of firepower, and ultimately that is what you need for reload. And finally, I've gone for Yanis and Rax in 5th place. I know they're contested over at Elite Armory, but I do have a suspicion they may split that with Robin and Globsheet. I do think that could be a favourable situation, especially with how big and how honestly splittable that POI is. I could see Rax and Yanis doing very well. They of course came 3rd in the most recent Divisional Cup as well. They are in great form. I do think things could be bright for them. Now in other news, we have the UK duo of Zynox and Cade qualify for heats over on Middle East. They have officially flown to Dammam, Saudi Arabia, where they will be playing for future Divisional Cups for EWC. So it does seem like they're looking to qualify for globals from Middle East. We'll have to see how they get on. The other news we've got is that Jinxie is hosting an OG tournament. This will consist of 33 pro players and 66 content creators. Now firstly, I'm pretty happy we're getting an OG tournament. It does feel like it's been a while since they were last a thing, and of course a Jinxie Cup will be super entertaining. I know Aussie Antics has been helping him pick the players, so I'm sure we're going to end up with a good bunch. I do hope there are a lot of EU pros in there, although I'm sure it's going to be hosted on NA. I do just hope there's a bit of European representation, but that should be a pretty fun tournament. Thank you very much for watching this video. Please subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with European Fortnite news. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.